We're doing very well on the war front, to put it mildly, I would say. Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15. If we didn't hit...
Not everyone agrees with that.
This is going to make the operation in Libya look like child's play. There is no question this is war. They have contempt for the American people. They have contempt for the American people because they think that they can carry out the biggest war in the Middle East since Iraq and Afghanistan without a single vote, without a single discussion in...
An effort by Congress to rein in President Trump's war in Iran has failed. Democrats and a few Republicans tried to use the War Powers Resolution to force Trump to get approval from Congress to keep fighting. But it didn't pass. Now the war is dragging in even more countries, fueling a global crisis and dividing nations.
The biggest questions are around what are the true objectives of this war and how can they be achieved? What is the off-ramp? How do we get out of this? What is going to be enough for this administration to declare victory?
I'm Nicole Johnston, and you're listening to 7am. Today, Jasmine El-Gamal, former White House advisor and founder of Averos Strategies, on Trump's war. Is it ego, blind ambition, or part of a plan to reshape the world? It's Friday, March 6. Jasmine, you've been at the heart of US policy in the Middle East, working in the Department of Defense through the Guantanamo Bay controversy and the Arab Spring. Did you ever expect to see the region in the middle of a war like this?
I didn't expect it, but I was afraid of it. This is something that myself and other analysts have been warning about for the better part of 2 years now, really, in the post-October 7th security environment in the Middle East. And so last year, before the 12-day war, we were previewing this type of scenario exactly when we were cautioning against using military force before exhausting all diplomatic options. And the scenario that we're seeing today, this scorched earth kind of tactics by the Iranian regime to survive, is exactly what we have predicted.
Iran, the Gulf countries and the rest of the world, they're all trying to work out what is President Trump's goal here, and it seems to keep changing. He's mentioned missiles.
Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that.
The Navy.
Second, we're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships.
The nuclear program.
Ensuring that the world's number one sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon, never going to have a nuclear weapon.
Cutting off the proxies like Hezbollah. But what do you think the goal is? Or is this really about ego, so that Trump can say that he's the one who took down Khamenei?
Great question, Nicole. I think with Trump, you can never rule out ego 100%. But I think it's important here to just insert a bit more nuance into the question, because I don't think that only Donald Trump and the U.S. are involved in this or were involved in the decision to go to war. But of course, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's national security interests, as he sees them, were very much intertwined in this case.
Once they have the weapons of delivery, ballistic missiles, ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, they will threaten every city in the United States.
And of course, personal protection. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu is facing corruption trial. We know he has an election coming up that he's desperate to win to maintain immunity. We know that Donald Trump has midterm elections coming up and he wants to say that he did something that no one could ever do. So you have a lot of, both personal, political, professional reasoning went into this. And in explaining it to the American public, the president and his national security staff have given a wide range of competing reasons and justifications, importantly, most of which came more than 2 days after the start of military operations.
And Jasmine, domestically, how is Trump trying to justify this to his base? And what does the American public think of it all?
I would largely say that Americans are against going to war in the Middle East. Again, that Donald Trump campaigned on an electoral platform to explicitly stay out of conflicts and wars in the Middle East and otherwise. He campaigned on being a president of peace.
And these stupid endless wars. I saved the United, but that's one of the reasons Washington doesn't like me. They love those endless wars.
Peace through strength, yes, but what we're seeing now certainly is not strength. It's utter recklessness. And so the way he's justifying it is that he's trying to state that Iran was posing an imminent threat to the United States, that they were working towards nuclear capacity, that they were working towards long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles that could strike the U.S. homeland, and that they were refusing to make any concessions in negotiations. All of those things have been proven incorrect by the intelligence community in the United States that was not assessing that Iran posed an imminent threat. And according to the Omani foreign minister, who was a mediator in these talks, who said the day before strikes began on U.S. television that the Iranians had made concessions that they did not even make with President Obama when he was negotiating the JCPOA or the Iran deal back then.
What has Iran agreed to you that they have never done before? Can you give us any sense?
The single most important achievement, I believe, is the agreement that Iran will never, ever have a nuclear material that will create a bomb. I think a deal is within our reach.
Coming up, Jasmine's message to the PM: don't choose might over right. Jasmine, Trump has made it clear that this isn't going to be a quick Venezuela-style raid. But how much criticism and, on the other side, support for it is there inside the government? What are the debates that we're hearing?
The biggest debate right now is about what is going to be enough for this administration to declare victory. Is it the number of missiles shot down? Is it the number of leaders killed?
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody.
When President Trump was asked what his worst case scenario was, he said that the supreme leader, who was just assassinated, would be replaced by someone even worse. And he acknowledged that that is a possibility. And indeed, that is what CIA assessments stated, was that that was a real possibility. So we're looking here at potentially a protracted operation, a protracted war with potentially billions more spent in US dollars, taxpayer money. And again, Nicole, I can't stress enough how the administration has not been able to articulate when and how this is over.
The answers are very unsatisfying. They have shifting goals, different goals all the time, different answers every day. And I am truly worried about mission creep. When there's no set plan, when you can't...
So we're looking now at prospects for the future. What happens now with President Trump checking off that congressional box and feeling very empowered? Where can things go from here? And what I worry about, of course, is further escalation with greater and greater risks of miscalculation. And of course, the tremendous human cost that we're seeing absorbed by people throughout the region.
Here in Australia, our Prime Minister is supporting the war.
We support the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent Iran from continuing to threaten international peace and security.
And you're in London at the moment. where Keir Starmer's comments at the start of the war got him in trouble with Trump.
This government does not believe in regime change from the skies, and I thank him for his question. The lessons of history have taught us that it is important when we make decisions like this that we establish there is a lawful basis for what the United Kingdom
extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Now, Starmer has since shifted the country's position. Could you tell us a little bit about the UK's own difficult balancing act and what its role in this war is turning out to be?
Absolutely. The UK is trying to strike a balancing act. They're trying to balance their own national security interests. So anything that happens in the Middle East is much more likely to impact Europe and the UK and, of course, other countries in the region. And the US doesn't have to bear the brunt of that. So you see different countries in Europe trying to stake their positions. The Spanish Prime Minister has come out very strongly, very clearly, and says Spain says no to war.
We must learn from history and cannot play Russian roulette with the fate of millions of people. The powers involved in this conflict must immediately cease hostilities and commit to dialogue and diplomacy.
And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Chancellor Merz in Germany, unequivocal support to President Trump, going so far as to state explicitly that international law doesn't really pertain to this situation at this time. And we have just been through 2 years of watching the double standards of the international community applied between the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, and lamenting the loss of respect for international law, which if we don't have international law, if we cannot count on it, then what do we have? The law of the jungle, where might is right. What is the message that people get from that countries get from that? Arm up. Be stronger, because that's the only way you will be able to protect yourself. And so we have this scenario now where countries like Australia and Germany saying that international law essentially doesn't matter, that a US president can decide to go to war illegally, and that other countries in the free world will back him up. What precedent is that setting? And is it worth it? That's what I would ask the Australian leadership right now. Is this worth it?
I know it's impossible to really know, but what do you think the strategy of Iran is at this point? Because they seem to be going for this steady, consistent pace of attacks, keeping up the pressure on the Gulf, and at the same time throwing the world into chaos.
Iran's strategy is simple. 2 things. 1, survive. Just survive another day. And 2, make the cost of this war so high on as many actors as possible so as to scare them off and have the US back down.
It seems that the people of Iran are almost being forgotten in all of this. There's been a lot of focus on the Gulf, on Israel, and on the US. Does it feel like they've almost been sidelined in this war? They're just sitting back with no idea what will happen next.
The Iranian people really stand to be the biggest losers, really no matter what the outcome is at this point. They were told by Donald Trump to go out into the streets and take advantage of this once in a generation or multiple generation opportunity. At the same time, you have the IRGC still intact. You have the Basij, the plainclothes paramilitary force roaming the streets, intimidating people, trying to quell unrest before it even begins. Already, human rights organizations are saying about 1,000 people have been killed in Iran, including 180 school children, girls between the age of 7 and 12 years old. And so you have to think from the Iranian perspective. The US president, the Israeli prime minister, the Iranian leadership, they have all gambled so recklessly with the lives of 90 million people who have already been through so much hardship, so much economic hardship and otherwise. They're completely cut off from the world. People can't reach their families inside of Iran from outside. No one really knows what's going on in their day-to-day lives. And you just have to feel that it's incredibly tragic for world leaders to be so callous with the lives of an entire population.
Jasmine, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Also in the news, Monash IVF has paid millions of dollars in secret settlements after 2 nightmare mix-ups which saw women implanted with the wrong embryos. At least 3 families have now received compensation, reported to be in the millions. Monash has investigated the bungles, which resulted in a Queensland woman giving birth to a stranger's baby. It found both cases were due to human error. And Australia and Canada will deepen ties on critical minerals, defence, vaccines and AI. Anthony Albanese and Mark Carney announced the move in a joint press conference in Canberra during the Canadian PM's whirlwind visit. Carney has offered to team up with Australia as strategic cousins to push back against dominant superpowers. I'm Nicole Johnston. This is 7am. Thanks for listening.